What's up, guys? Welcome back to FishOfHex. Appreciate you stopping in. Today's video really doesn't have a topic. It's more or less me filling you in on some of the struggles and things that have been going on with the reef tank and the frag tank or frag system since I started the coral sales last week on the 13th. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, the biggest struggle that I have is alkalinity dips, and it's more or less in the main display than the frag system, because the frag system really doesn't have that much SPS, and majority of it is already healed because it's been in the main display. Now, before I get into the alkalinity dip, when I cut coral in my main display, I let it heal in the main display before transferring it over to the frag tank. The reason for that is I really don't dose a lot of two-part in that frag system, and I don't want to be putting in whole colonies that have just been cut, because I'll get a huge dip in alkalinity, and there's a good chance that I'll have a higher percentage of die-off. Now, I am losing coral, I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but every few days there is something that just doesn't like to heal regardless of what tank it's in. And, you know, that's just part of cutting coral, and I think that's why people who import coral and cut them find that they have a higher, or have to sell them at a higher percentage or a higher rate, because there is a percentage that does die off during that whole healing process. All right, now moving on to the alkalinity dip. Now, it really only impacts the reef tank the first 2 or 3 days after a significant amount of corals cut up. Usually, if I stay under 10 frags, I don't see a dip. But once I get up to like 15, 20, 25, 30, that's when I start getting a bigger dip. Now, of course, the more you cut, the more it needs to heal, and then the bigger the dip will be. So I try to keep it under 20 frags, and I usually only get a minor dip in alkalinity. Now, before I was cutting up, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 at one time, and then I was getting, whole points of alkalinity, or at least DKH, sorry, fluctuation within a couple days, and that really pissed off the reef tank, specifically the Acropora. Now, if I keep it underneath 20 frags every few days, I'm getting usually I keep my reef tank at 9.5 DKH, and it'll go from 9.5 to maybe 9.2. And that's really, that's almost nothing, and it's really not that bad, but it's still a small dip. And then the Acropora, polyp extension isn't that great for a couple days, but then, 4 or 5 days later, everything is back to normal. Now, with that being said, if you guys remember, a few weeks ago, I picked up 20 new Acropora for the new 300-gallon build, and they are sponsored by Pat at Murphy's Reefing, so shout out to him for taking care of that. Now, there are plans of getting up to 60 more before I move, and then, of course, after the new reef tank is up, I'll be getting some harder to grow species of acros. Now, with that being said, adding these new Acropora not only continues to pull calcium alkalinity out of the water column, but between trying to keep those new Acropora healthy and acclimating them to the light and the flow and all that kind of stuff, it's very stressful on those corals. And then if you want to throw on the other side, cutting coral up, continuing to have dips in alkalinity, balancing the two acts is definitely a struggle, and it's not something that I recommend anyone to do. Now, I did lose one Acropora, and it was the Larry Jackson. Of course, as I mentioned, it was my favorite coral, and I lost him shortly after I got him. I would say maybe within a few days. He just didn't like the lighting. They did come from full T5 lighting, so the LED was just too much for him. I did bring him down, put him at a lower par reading, but it still is just too late at that point. He RTN'd out. Now, it sucks, but I can always get another frag of that. Now, with that being said, you guys can kind of get an idea of what I'm dealing with on a daily basis. And to throw in another variable, I did change my salt from reef crystals to that HW marine mix, which was the previous video. But thankfully, that's not really adding any issue. It's actually making things easier, because it's a very consistent salt. And I'm very happy to, that I made the switch finally after all these years. I'm still trying to figure out why I waited so long. But we all live and learn. That's just part of the hobby. Now, speaking of living and learning, I will say the last 24 days have been the biggest learning curve I've ever experienced regarding the saltwater hobby, besides, starting off and, not knowing anything. I will say that it's pretty stressful with client expectations, because I do everything I possibly can to make sure that my coral is ready to be shipped and that it gets to you as safely as possible. And there's always that hidden variable that I know a lot of people don't like to talk about, but it is disappointing when something doesn't survive, or if a client isn't as happy as I want them to be, at least, and or expectations just aren't where they should be. Now, the coral prices are relatively cheap compared to retail. I mean, at least 1/3 the price. And I do give a specific detail, or at least description of the coral that you'll be receiving. Now, obviously, the picture isn't what you're going to be getting unless it specifically says what you see is what you get. So I think that between the client expectations and doing everything I possibly can to make sure that they're satisfied, that's where the real stress comes into this whole addition to the hobby. But don't get me wrong, guys, I really do enjoy what I'm doing. Selling coral, helping people, building reef tanks for businesses and clients, and then doing the one-on-one stuff. It's all what I really enjoy. I enjoy uploading videos to YouTube. I like helping people. That's all stuff that you know, that I want to do, and the fact that I can turn a hobby into a career is everybody's dream, right? So I'm very thankful that I can do that, and everything in my life has lined up to this point for that to be possible. Because we don't know what's going to happen today or tomorrow, I really don't know what direction this company is going to go in, but I do plan on bringing it to a different level, or a whole new level, where I can help other people. And one thing in particular that I want to do, and something I've wanted to do since the beginning, and I was going to wait to mention this after the 300-gallon build, but I will kind of give you an idea now, is I'm going to be starting a nonprofit called Reef Tanks for Veterans. Now, the reason for this is I mentioned in my previous video that my reef tank and this hobby has helped me get through or deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. When I got back from Afghanistan, it's been a very hard, difficult life for the last 9 years, almost 9 years. And when I was going through the VA, there was a gentleman who told me, when I get on my feet and I'm able to help people, I need to reach back to the veteran behind me and help. And that's what I'm going to do. Once everything gets established, probably in the beginning of next year, I will start using percentages of all my coral purchases or sales, sorry, and you know, what I do through the business, and donating it to this nonprofit. And then once enough money is raised, I'll be able to have veterans put in applications, specifically those of you who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, but be able to get those applications in, go out and meet this person regardless of where they live in the country, fly out there, meet them, set up and build a reef tank for them, and and then do the whole video series on it. So that's something that I want to do in the future, within the next year or two. I want that up and running, and that's something that pretty much is the foundation of this whole channel, and it's something that it's always been in the back of my mind. But now that everything is taking off, it's in the future, and I can see it. Well, guys, I think I have done enough rambling on. My voice is getting a little scratchy. I'm coming down with another cold, so I think I will cut this video short. I will be doing more videos like this in the future, kind of giving you guys an insight on my thought process, some of the things I'm doing. But if you like this type of video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And also, guys, the weather is getting really good outside. My ZX6R is up and running, working great. Got some new parts on it, got a new race suit. So we're going to be hitting the twisties and going to the track and having some good time with that. So when it's really, really nice outside, I probably won't be making a video. So just a heads up if my videos are about 1 or 2 a week instead of like 3 or 4 a week, just because the weather is really nice. So just a heads up on that. Either way, guys, if you liked the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Peace.